Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into episode 7 of Mate the series. The episode kicked off with a heartwarming turn of events. After Jen's mother discovered their relationship, everything changed. Finally, Jen and Ori could live their truth without the fear and secrecy that had held them back. For Jen, this was a moment of pure happiness and relief. She could proudly stand by Ori's side, no longer hiding their love. Ori, too, was able to experience a warmth she had longed for, a sense of being accepted and loved, not just by Jen but by the world around them. This newfound freedom was a beautiful turning point for both of them. Together, they embraced it, and their bond grew even stronger. Later, Ori wrote a new novel inspired by her love for Jen and published it on her website, hoping people would admire their relationship. In the novel, Ori described Jen, the main character, as a beautiful woman with a lovely face, rich, intelligent, authoritarian, a dictator, and mouthy. When Jen read this, she teased, "Is that what you call a good description?" Ori laughed in response. Ori was thrilled when her novel attracted many readers and comments, particularly about the character Jen, who quickly became a fan favorite. Excitedly, Ori showed the comments to Jen, and they read them together. Among the feedback, one comment stood out. It was recent, unrelated to the novel, and seemed personal. "I can't contact you, Ori. You're not answering my calls. Please call me." At first, Ori didn't notice the comment, but Jen pointed it out. When Ori saw it, her expression shifted from joy to stress. Jen remarked, "I think this is your mom. Do you want to contact her?" "No," Ori replied sharply, her eyes welling with tears. She wiped them away and tried to compose herself. Jen said gently, "Maybe she just wants to talk to you about something important." Ori responded, "I'm not her daughter anymore, not since I left that house. You're the most important person to me now." Then, Ori hugged Jen tightly, as if seeking solace. "You are my everything," she whispered. Jen hugged her back, comforting her while sensing that something significant was unfolding. Later, Jen reached out to Ori's mother and arranged a meeting. When they met, Ori's mom greeted her warmly, saying, "You've grown into a beautiful young woman, Jenlong. How are you? Are you still teaching?" Jen asked. "I saw your message on the writer's website and thought you might miss Ori, so I wanted to let you know she's fine." Ori's mom replied, "I'm relieved to hear that and glad she's with you," but still worry clouded her face. Jen noticed and asked, "Are you okay? You seem anxious." "I was worried, but knowing she's with you eases my mind," Ori's mom said. Then she added hesitantly, "Is your father still a police officer?" "Yes, he'll retire in 3 years," Jen answered. It was clear Ori's mom wanted to say more but was holding back. Jen encouraged her, "Why don't you tell me what's going on?" Finally, Ori's mom confessed, "My husband has disappeared." Jen was taken aback, realizing she meant Ori's stepfather. Trying to stay composed, she asked, "How long has he been missing?" "Several months," Ori's mom replied. "I haven't heard from him, and I think he may be involved with a mafia group. A few days ago, some men raided my house, searching for something." Jen immediately suspected that the men were her bodyguards looking for evidence, especially the photo files. Ori's mom added, "I think my husband might have visited Ori." "Why would he visit Ori?" Jen asked, her tone sharp. Avoiding eye contact, Ori's mom said, "They are father and daughter." "Isn't he her stepfather?" Jen pressed. "Did Ori tell you that?" Ori's mom asked curiously. "Yes, she said he's her stepfather and the reason she left." Ori's mom hesitated before asking, "How much did she tell you?" Jen's respect for her former teacher began to wane as she realized the depth of Ori's mother's obsession with her husband. "She told me you loved him more than her," Jen said bluntly. "Don't say that," Ori's mom snapped. Struggling to remain polite, Jen replied, "I'm sorry, but I just can't understand why you care more about someone else than your daughter. I suppose it's because she's adopted and less important to you than the man you're in a relationship with." Ori's mom's voice turned cold. "This is your second warning. Don't say that again." Undeterred, Jen pressed on. "Teacher, Ori was treated horribly. Do you honestly believe she flirted with him? Why didn't you support her?" "This is a family matter," Ori's mom insisted. "No," Jen retorted. "It's child abuse, and that's not just a family matter. If I reported this, everyone would know how much you love your husband and how little you care for your daughter." Ori's mom stood abruptly, but Jen crossed her arms, holding her ground. "Forget my request," Ori's mom said icily. "I'll handle this myself." And then she walked away. As she was about to leave, Jen called after her, "We've been talking for nearly an hour, and you've only mentioned Ori for 2 minutes. Do you even love your daughter?" Ori's mom didn't answer. She walked out, leaving Jen simmering with anger. Though Jen didn't share the details of the meeting with anyone, the encounter left her deeply uneasy, especially about Ori's stepfather's disappearance. Back at the condo, Ori was elated by the positive comments on her novel and work, while Jen busied herself with her assignment. "If I win $1 million, I'll buy a house," Ori said cheerfully, glancing briefly at Jen while typing on her computer. "You can be my interior designer. It has to be beautiful." Jen teased, "Will you leave me here alone?" Ori smiled. "No, you'll design the house we'll live in together. I hope you won't charge me too much since it's our house." Jen looked at her with affection. "If we're really living together, I won't charge you a cent. You don't have to save money, I can just ask my mom for it." Ori shook her head happily. "No, it has to be something I've earned. That's what makes it valuable. You'll design the house because that's your specialty. Our house will be beautiful. I'll pay for it, and you'll work for me." They laughed and chatted warmly, their conversation full of dreams and lightheartedness. Suddenly, Jen brought up Ori's mom. "You know, you could actually live with your mom, Teacher Sally." The mention of her mom instantly changed Ori's mood. Her cheerful expression darkened. "Do you not want to be with me? Why are you suggesting I live with my mom?" Jen tried to explain. "I'm just making a suggestion. Don't take it so seriously. I don't want to hear you talk about my mom again," Ori said firmly. "I told you I only have you in my life. Only you." As Ori spoke, Jen thought about her mom's words. After a pause, she said gently, "Someday, you might find the right man and marry him. You may not love me the way you do today." Ori hugged Jen tightly. "I've never felt this way with anyone. I thought you felt the same way too." She added with determination, "We love each other. That's all that matters." They embraced, their warmth chasing away the brief tension. Later, as they sat down to watch TV, the mood shifted. Jen froze at the news report flashing on the screen. A distraught woman stood before the media, tearfully demanding an investigation into her husband's disappearance weeks earlier. He had been found dead, concealed inside a large cement tank. That woman was Ori's mom. Ori blinked in surprise. "That's Mom. Why is she there?" Jen's voice trembled. "Someone is dead, your stepfather." Ori's expression immediately changed. Her eyes turned fierce, the shock in her gaze mingling with a strange, unmistakable satisfaction. For Jen, it was as though a cold hand squeezed her heart, stopping the blood from flowing. She was consumed by fear, guilt, and an overwhelming sense of dread. Since that day, Jen's life has been consumed by fear. The news of Ori's stepfather's murder had spread across the country, making it impossible to avoid. Jen couldn't concentrate, her mind replaying the events over and over. She couldn't eat or sleep, and guilt gnawed at her constantly. Ori, on the other hand, seemed unaffected. She carried on as if nothing had happened, tending to Jen with unwavering care. Despite her inner turmoil, Jen found herself strangely captivated by Ori's unshakable calmness. It was as though Ori existed in a parallel reality where the grim news simply didn't matter. But Jen's curiosity eventually got the better of her. One evening, as they sat in silence, she asked, "Ori, have you contacted your mom?" "No," Ori replied, her tone neutral, her face unreadable. Jen hesitated, then pressed further. "Why don't you call her, just to check if she's okay? She was on the news crying. Don't you feel anything at all?" Ori turned away, her voice cold. "I don't know why I should do that. I don't feel anything." As if to end the conversation, Ori stood up, but Jen reached out and grabbed her hand. The moment their skin touched, Jen felt a chill run through her, as though the warmth in Ori had been replaced with an icy void. "I can't feel anything for her," Ori continued, her eyes distant. "Because she never felt anything for me." Jen looked at her, seeing a mix of pain and indifference in her expression. At that moment, she realized just how deeply scarred Ori's relationship with her mother was. Still, she couldn't shake the nagging thought that something about all of this wasn't right. Why had Ori's mom been so emotional on the news, yet barely mentioned Ori when they met? What had really happened between them? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden ringing of her phone. She glanced at the screen and froze. Uncle Somkit was calling. When she answered, his voice was calm but carried an unmistakable urgency. "Jen, your father wants to see you. Now." Her chest tightened as terror crept up her spine. Her father rarely summoned her like this, and never with such urgency. Immediately, her mind flashed to the news. Did he know? Without wasting a moment, she turned to Ori. "I have to go," she said quickly, grabbing her things. As she rushed out of the condo, her heart pounded with dread. When Jen arrived at her father's office, she rushed inside to find him speaking with his subordinates. His face was tense, a clear sign of the pressure he was under, but as soon as he saw her, his expression softened. He dismissed everyone, focusing his full attention on her with the warmth she had always known. "Why are you so thin?" "I saw the news, and Somkit told me everything," he said gently. Fear gripped Jen as the image of the corpse in the cement tank flashed through her mind. Dreading her father's judgment and overwhelmed with guilt, she broke down, confessing everything she had done. Her father listened in silence, his face unreadable. Then, to her surprise, he rose from his desk and pulled her into a warm hug. "I thought you called me to scold me," Jen murmured through her tears. Instead, he spoke softly. "Why didn't you tell me from the beginning? I would have fixed everything for you." "I'm sorry," Jen cried, clinging to him. She had always believed her father could handle any problem, no matter how insurmountable. He reassured her, "Don't cry, my princess. You're strong. Keep living your life as normally as you can. I'll take care of everything." After comforting her, Jen's father turned to speak with Uncle Somkit. Jen overheard their conversation, her heart pounding with unease. Uncle Somkit admitted, "I was the one who shot Ori's stepfather, so I think I will turn myself in." Her father nodded solemnly. "Make sure it's handled. We can't let the media escalate this further." The weight of the exchange hit Jen like a stone. She hadn't intended for things to spiral this far. What had started as a desperate attempt to stop a bad man had now implicated her father and uncle in a dangerous web of crime and exposure. Later, Jen confronted Uncle Somkit, demanding he tell her the truth. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded and confessed, "There's CCTV footage from the hotel. It captured everything. The car we used is registered in Ori's mother's name, and the police are already investigating." "Don't worry," he added, trying to sound reassuring. "Your father is working to protect you. The situation isn't as bad as it seems." But Jen wasn't convinced. Her father was now a target not just for the murder but for every shadowy business deal he had ever been involved in, money laundering, illegal operations, and more. To Ori's mother, determined to uncover the truth, sent a request to a rescue center to help investigate her husband's death. The investigation team dug deep and soon uncovered connections leading directly to Jen's father, who had orchestrated everything. "What's going to happen to our family?" Jen asked, her voice trembling. "We're under investigation, but they won't find anything," Uncle Somkit said. Yet his forced confidence did little to soothe her growing anxiety. As Jen prepared to leave, Great appeared unexpectedly, his presence catching her off guard. "What do you want?" she asked, surprised. "Are you okay with me now?" Great's expression was conflicted. "No, I'm still furious with you, but I didn't know who else to talk to." He gestured for her to follow him, leading her to a private corner. Then he asked, "Are you here because of the anti-money laundering office?" Jen's stomach dropped. "How do you know about that?" "I overheard Mom and Dad talking," he replied. "They're trying to transfer assets or something." It sounded serious. "Mom said I might have to go abroad soon." The weight of his words pressed down on her like a stone. Great's tone shifted, turning accusatory. "I also heard this is all because of Ori. She doesn't let anyone touch her because she was abused, right?" "Shut your mouth." Jen snapped, her anger igniting. Great didn't flinch. "Jen, our family is falling apart because of you. All of this, everything, is because you couldn't let go. You helped her, and now our powerful family is about to crumble." "She didn't do anything wrong," Jen yelled, her voice trembling with emotion. Deep down, she knew it was her actions that had set these events in motion. Her stepfather was a monster. Prison wouldn't have stopped him. He would have just kept hurting her. "It was better this way, better that he's dead." Great sneered. "It would have been fine if it had stopped with him. But now, he's dragging all of us to hell with him. Why do you care so much if some girl gets raped? Ori isn't the only one. Do you think you can save them all?" Jen's chest heaved with anger as she shouted, "She's the one I love." Great's face twisted in disdain. "If you love women, pick someone else. You can have anyone you want. We're rich. Why her? She's defective, you should." The slap came before he could finish the sentence. Jen's hand stung from the force, and Great staggered back, stunned. "Did you just hit me? Over her?" Great asked, his voice a mix of shock and rage. Jen shot back, her voice trembling with fury. "Because of your disgusting, twisted thoughts. How dare you blame the victim? You've had every privilege handed to you, yet you judge someone who's been through hell. You're the one who's broken, not her." Great glared at her, his face flushed with anger, before storming off without another word. Jen stood there, trembling with a mix of anger and guilt. She realized the full weight of her actions not only had her life unraveled, but her entire family was now teetering on the edge of chaos. When Jen arrived at the condo, the guilt weighed on her like a crushing tide. Her mind was a storm of conflicting emotions, shame for dragging her family into chaos, fear of what might come next, and a deep, aching need for solace. As soon as she stepped inside, Ori noticed the pain etched across her face. "What's wrong, Jen?" Ori asked softly, her eyes full of concern. Jen hesitated, her throat tightening as tears threatened to spill. "I miss you," she murmured, her voice trembling. I want to hold you." Before Ori could respond, Jen wrapped her arms around her, holding her as though she might disappear. Ori froze for a moment, startled by the intensity, but then embraced her back with equal warmth. "You're scaring me, Jen," Ori whispered, pulling back slightly to look into her eyes. "Did something happen?" Jen's gaze met hers, vulnerable and unguarded, and she whispered hoarsely, "I love you, Ori." Ori blinked, her expression shifting to surprise, but before she could respond, Jen leaned in, capturing her lips in a deep, desperate kiss. The kiss was filled with everything Jen couldn't say, her fear, her longing, her need for Ori to anchor her in the chaos. Ori slowly responded, her arms sliding around Jen's neck as her own emotions swirled with confusion and tenderness. "Jen," she began, her voice trembling. "Talk to me. What's going on?" Jen's voice cracked as she replied, "Nothing." It was a lie, but the truth felt too heavy to speak. Ori looked at her with a mixture of concern and love. "I don't know what's happening," she said softly, brushing a tear from Jen's cheek, "but I'm here for you. I'll always be here for you. Tonight, let me help you forget everything, if only for a little while." Her words broke something inside Jen, and she nodded, her chest heaving with unspoken emotion. Ori kissed her again, tenderly at first, her lips a promise of comfort and safety. Slowly, their kisses deepened, and they surrendered to the moment, seeking solace in each other. For a while, nothing else mattered, not the guilt, the chaos, or the fear. In the quiet intimacy of their shared love, they created a sanctuary, a place where the world couldn't reach them. It was a fragile reprieve, but it was everything Jen needed to hold on, if only for one more day. What will happen next? Stay tuned for the next episode. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share to show your support for the channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.